Hello, and welcome back to Life.ev, a podcast that dives into exploring values. I'm your host, Ajit Panicker, and I lead an air conditioning company, Nova, and Pure Blue, a tech startup in the air conditioning domain. Every Saturday at 11 a.m., join us for conversations that go beyond business growth, focusing on the values that fuel it. Let's embark on a journey to uncover our true purpose and how we can grow by enriching our lives. Welcome to Life.ev, where we explore values in life and business. And as usual, I have Vivek Asrani with me. Hi, Vivek.
Hi Ajit, how are you doing today?
Absolutely good, Vivek. For some of you who have not been introduced to Vivek, Vivek Asrani is the driving force behind Camo Fastener Company, a trailblazing company in the industrial fastener sector. What sets Vivek apart is his deep engagement with the exploration of values. Now, for close to 4 years, he has dedicatedly penned his reflections on this topic every week. These insightful thoughts are accessible on his website, vivekasrani.com. Additionally, Vivek has authored the book One Day at a Time Reflections from Times of Silence, which further delves into his journey and insights. This thought provoking read is available on Amazon, offering readers a chance to engage with his profound understanding of values and their role in both personal and professional lives. In today's episode of Life.tv, we are delving into building strong institutions. Vivek, let's hear from you on this.
So, institutions survive individuals, and all of us have been beneficiaries of an institution we have been part of, whether it be our school, our college, where we work, and even the society we live in. Some of the institutions were created well before we were born and will continue well after we are no more. And that really is the value of creating institutions. So personally, I've been passionate about what does it take to build institutions. To my mind, there are a few things which are central to this. One is the vision of the larger good builds institutions. It's easy to build a business, it's easy to build a profitable business and to make money. But running a business and making money is not necessarily synonymous with building an institution. So, having a vision of what is the greater good and what can become of this opportunity that I am blessed with today, builds an institution. And I think one of the best examples we have in our own country is that of Jamshedji Tata, where he built his companies to build the nation. Right? He had a vision for India, and that vision drove him to build his companies and the trusts and the Tata trusts in a manner that he gave us the foundation of some great institutions. So, vision is an absolute necessity for anyone who is running a organization to convert that into a long lasting institution. Second is the values and principles on which we work. The strength of a tree is determined by its roots. We know that for a fact. And the roots in any organization are the values and the principles with which the organization works. And the values and principles not just printed, but lived in behavior. And this is where the challenge lies, Ajit, that all of us are human. We all make mistakes. We all succumb. So we understand the values and principles, but it is those organizations that live, act, and behave with those values and principles that then go on to become institutions. The third is the trade off between short term and long term. In our personal lives and in the lives of our organizations, there is always the temptation to succumb to the short term because it's easier, more comfortable, something we can see, and we tend to gravitate towards that. But those who are visionaries, those who are building institutions, will then anchor themselves to the long term. Now, I'm not for a moment saying that the short term is not important, because if we only live in the long term, then we might have short term problems and we won't survive the long term. But the willingness and ability to make the trade offs. Second is to make the investment, and the investment is not just of money, Ajit, it's also of the time, effort, commitment for me to do something today which I may not necessarily, you know, enjoy the fruits of in my lifetime. But it doesn't matter, because building institutions is not about what I am going to enjoy. It's about a legacy, or doing something, like I said in the first thing, which was having a vision for the larger good. So, thinking long term builds institutions. Developing leaders builds institutions. No matter how good you are, an individual cannot become an institution. And so often we've seen that when the patriarch is not there, or the leader of a particular organization is not there, it succumbs, it perishes. So, the willingness and ability to again build strong leadership and to develop others is critical to creating institutions. So I think there is a big difference between running an organization and creating institutions. So when we have a vision, when we are centered in our values, when we think long term, and we develop people, we build institutions. But the last thing I would say is, there is one institution we are all part of, which is our family. And the family builds the fabric of society and strengthens the fabric of society. So when we build strong families, we build a strong nation. And if we view our family as an institution which has to be indoctrinated with love, with a spirit of service, and to include those in our prosperity who are not as fortunate as us, then we are building a great micro institution, but collectively we build this fantastic institution of a nation. So the power of institution building is not just limited to big brands, big names, big companies, and big buildings that we see. Each one of us has the opportunity of building an institution, starting with our own family and small businesses that we run.
Vivek, this also brings me to a question. Can you also share in a little more simpler format, what it means, a strong institution, both from a realm of enterprise or from a perspective of a personal perspective? What does it mean? How do I visualize something like a strong institution? What does that mean actually to me?
So, an institution that has resilience is a strong institution. What gives anything strength is resilience. It is not the strongest of a species that survives, it is the one that is the most adaptable. So, in a storm, if a tree doesn't fall, you'll say that was a strong tree. And if a tree falls with just a little bit of a wind, you'll say, no, that tree was tall, but it wasn't very strong. So, one is resilience and the ability to adapt to a situation. The second is having courage, because we are in our personal and professional lives, Ajit. There are crossroads and there are decisions to be made. Do we take the easy path or do we take the right path? And I'm not for a moment saying that I've always taken the right path. Very often I have also taken the easy path. Okay, I'm as human as anybody else. And my reflections have also come a lot from my own learnings and my own mistakes and my own experiences, when I looked back and I said, I made the wrong decision then. I should have decided differently. I should have behaved differently. I should have thought better. So the courage to make the right decisions when we are at the crossroad of the easy path and the right path. Okay, that lends itself to a strong organization. Next is creating value gives strength, but not just creating value for ourselves. So it's moving from creating shareholder value in business to creating stakeholder value. It's moving from what's in it for me to what's in it for us, and including those in my prosperity who are not as fortunate as I am in my own big or small way. So this, the resilience, the adaptability, the courage, creating value, and being inclusive, this helps in building strong institutions. But finally, I would say that the strength of an institution is what it is anchored to. And if it is anchored to the core purpose of service with an attitude of love, you could be manufacturing a car, you could be making chocolates and soaps, you could be in the education sector, you could be a hospital. I'm not saying that this is only the area of somebody who's in education and health sector. You could be making chocolates and soaps, which is also a service to society. But if you do it with love and you do it with a spirit of service, you are building a good and strong institution.
I'm just going to complicate this whole concept a little more. Okay, so let's get into a little deeper discussion on this. Let's say you believe in something and you step out to build an institution which is a not-for-profit, right? And it's got a larger impact. It goes beyond you, everything. But as this organization keeps growing, there are external factors that start impacting the organization, right? Now it's a democratically run. It's not like a business that you own where you can say that, okay, if not this value is not happening. You can influence, but you're not in charge. How do you handle a situation like that when an organization that you were so passionate that you built, and then the core values of that starts getting diluted because of these external factors? What do you do then? I mean, have you faced such situations, and or if you were to face such a situation, how would you look at that situation?
But Ajit, why NGO? This could happen even in the private sector in our own businesses, where the next generation comes in, or as the business grows, leadership
Sorry,
and
Vivek,
management.
let me
I
interrupt you there.
said,
The
I said,
difference is the difference is in a private enterprise we call the shots, right? In an NGO which is democratically run, where we are not the trustees,
yeah,
but we've taken it up, and then somebody else takes the chair, but the core values that you're associated with, that
yeah.
gets compromised. There
No,
you are kind of tied down.
I think that's a fair point. So one is, how do you institutionalize culture? And you're absolutely right. In clubs, societies, right? We've seen in our building societies at an extremely micro level, and in the NGO sector, where there is a change of people and a change of guard. So how do you institutionalize the culture? So one is, if you ask me, there has to be a strong written document and charter, which, in case of a dispute or confusion, you always go back to. Like in the country, we have a constitution, right? Second is, that you can never over communicate. Good leadership always continues and continuously communicates the values, the purpose, so that the people who are part of the organization, in a way, get, I'm using the word indoctrinated not in a negative way, but start understanding the ethos and the principles on which the organization has been built. The ideas may be different. There could be a divergence in strategy, but not in the core values and the culture, right? And third is, like I said, you have to create leaders. So when you are bringing in people, one has to also be mindful who one is handing off to as the next generation in that organization. We had a situation like this, where I'm part of. Well, I'm not going to name it, but I'm part of a NGO kind of, right. It's a not for profit situation, and there was a change of managing committee, and there was a lot of bureaucracy and a highly regimented way of doing things, and the whole atmosphere had become extremely uh, negative and tense. There was no dishonesty, but there was no fun left. And it wasn't what, you know, most of the people were subscribing to. But then some of us had to step up and take charge. And that brings me to the next point. You cannot sit in the shade and say that, my garden is going to get built by itself. You have to step out in the sun and you have to plow and sow and water and build your own garden. So many of us have to then have the courage, have the commitment to step up and bring about that very change that we aspire in society. So, like Gandhi said, that be the change you want to see out there. It's not it's not just a philosophical statement. I think it's one of the most practical things we can do. We see it in our businesses, we see it in the NGOs we are all part of. But it is at the end of the day the art of carrying people with you, and also the art of being part of a team. And I think as a culture, uh, as a nation, we are. I mean, that's one of the big things that's also going to take us forward. When the whole spirit of collaboration and teamwork becomes ingrained as part of our culture, where it's not competition that drives us, but collaboration that takes us all forward. I mean, Japan is a great example, and we keep talking about that. There's no reason why we shouldn't be talking about India in the same spirit and breath in some time.
So when I just sum up from what I'm listening to you, it says that you got to be passionate. You build a strong institution for the larger good, and then you build also leadership that actually and a culture, or you institutionalize the culture, and then you put the new leader and they run the show, and you sit by the side. And when those values get compromised, you step up and then fix it. That's how you got to do it, right?
Yeah,
At
and
one
and
point.
also and also you have to demonstrate. I'll give you two or three small examples, right? So we were looking for a new warehouse. We found something which was much cheaper. We would have saved a lot of money in the year. When I went to see the new warehouse, I asked the gentleman whose warehouse it was. I said, "Where are the toilets?" So he looks at me and he says, "But why are you concerned? Your people are going to work here. You are not going to work here." It was part of a larger complex. So I said, "Well, any place that we take, the yardstick is, the benchmark is that my children should be able to drink the water there and my children should be able to use the toilet facilities." And he showed me where the toilets were. We couldn't even go close to it. And I rejected that. So my organization saw that I was leaning in favor of strong working conditions, even at the cost of paying more. I was not favoring profit over people. Now, I can say people are the most important asset, but then I can go and make a decision where I'm anchored to profit at the cost of the working conditions of my people. But when they see me making that decision in real time in the real world and actually standing up to what I believe, at some level, I believe that has institutionalized our culture. You know, one of our salesperson wanted to take care of a purchase manager, said, "Listen, let me take care of him. You know, I know, nobody else needs to know." I said, "There'll come a point of time when you'll hand over the account to somebody else. And you'll tell that guy that, listen, now you know, I know, Vivek knows, nobody else knows." He's going to stop believing everything he's heard. What we've built, worked so hard to build over the years, will disappear overnight because he'll say, these guys say one thing but do something else. And when under pressure, he'll do exactly the same thing. He'll start taking up the next purchase officer, taking care of him and saying, Vivek also doesn't need to know. And before you know, we'll have this cancer that will become our operating system in the company. So the willingness to say no to profit, and I'm saying this in a business context, to uphold certain principles builds an institution. And oh, by the way, it gives you a manifold return, even economically going forward.
Amazing. Too good. And I think that's a great takeaway for all of us who are entrepreneurs, who contribute into social activities. Sometimes these values are extremely important. Vivek, thank you so much for this. It was a pleasure discussing this with you.
Always a pleasure with you, Ajit. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Well, to our viewers, this is the time that we've had for today's episode. And as usual, another thought provoking discussion with some deep insights. Uh, we would encourage you to take these ideas and bring it up between your friends, share this episode, start a conversation, and see where this conversation leads. And we'd love to hear from you. Join the dialogue on our social media platforms, share these episodes, your learnings, and put these questions onto the social media because your voice matters in shaping a more ethically driven business world. Well, that's it for today. Join us again next week, next Saturday at 11 a.m. for another episode on Life.ev, that is Life Exploring Values. Vivek, thank you very much as usual. See you next Saturday at 11 a.m.
Bye, Ajit. Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.